Hello everybody, my name is Sarah, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this little crochet chicken and egg bookmark right here. This is how it would work. Let me zoom out just a tiny bit. The concept is you just lay it in right here and then you close your book and the chicken just sits on top. Isn't that the cutest thing ever? It's just I think it's really silly. I love it, and today I'm going to show you how to make it. So let's get into it. Okay, so you are going to need some 4-ply worsted weight white yarn. This is I love this brand from Hobby Lobby. This is for the chicken and the egg. You are going to need just a little bit of red for the top of the chicken. I don't know what this part's called, but for that. I do use a chunky yarn. It's the only chunky yarn I have, honestly, and I use this for the beak, but you can use just a regular 4-ply worsted weight yellow yarn for the beak as well, but this is just what I use. Not a big deal. And honestly, I just have a little bit of black yarn because this is for the eyes right here. So, and then let me show you what hooks we're going to need. Okay, so I use a 4.5 millimeter hook for the chicken. This is what I use for the chicken. It comes out a little bit bigger, and then this is a smaller hook. It is a 3.75 millimeter hook for the egg, and I know that's kind of random, but it's honestly the smallest hook I had that I was comfortable using, so that's just why I use it. If you want to use a 3.5, that'd probably be fine too. It's not a big deal. You are going to need a darning needle. That is just to sew in the eyes and the beak and just the ends and stuff like that. Now this next step, also a pair of scissors. This next step is optional, but I do want to throw it out there, and I will show you how to do it without doing this step as well, just in case you are not able to. Now, like I said, this next part of supplies is completely optional, but it would be a button. It doesn't really matter the size in comparison to the chicken. It's about that big. It doesn't have to be white. This is just all I have. I think the one that's in this one is, let's see, I think it's like a tan. Doesn't matter. You're not going to see it. Now, this needle right here is honestly very interesting. I invested in this because it splits down the middle and you can put yarn into it, and then it gets really skinny so that you can get it through the buttons. You can get yarn through the buttons. So because you're not going to be able to do that with this. So, but like I said, this is completely optional. I just use it to keep the chain from coming out and to keep it coming directly out the center, because if you don't put it up through the center, like with a knot or a button or something, it's going to be off center, and no one wants that. So, like I said, it's completely optional. I will show you how to do it without it, but this is what I use. I also use a stitch marker and a little bit of measuring tape. That is just to make sure that this right here is about 8 inches long. Standard books are about 8.5 by 11, but you know, it gives a little bit of a stretch. So I figured 8 inches is good. You are also going to need the tiniest little bit of stuffing, not even a lot, like just a little bit. Okay, so starting with our white yarn and our 4.5 millimeter hook, we're going to do a magic ring and single crochet 8. So 1, 3, 4, 8. Double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now we're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet because we are working in rounds, not the spiral. So into that first stitch right there, we're going to single crochet, or actually we're going to slip stitch, my bad. Going to slip stitch, and then this is round 2, and we are going to do an increase in each of the stitches for a total of 16. So always chain 1, and then we're going to chain 2 in each of the stitches for a total of 16 at the end. I will meet you at the end. Okay, so now that I've reached the end of round 2 and I have 16 stitches, instead of slip stitching into the entire thing, we are just going to be working into the back loops only of this round. So instead of this front loop right here, make sure you can see, instead of this front loop, you're going to be working into the back loop only, and that includes the slip stitch. So we're going to slip stitch only into that loop right there. Okay, and now we're going to do 1 single crochet in each of the stitches into the back loops only of this round. So like I said, back loops only, 1 single crochet in each of the stitches. And I will meet you at the end. Okay, now that you have reached the end of round 3, you're going to slip stitch into the top of the entire first stitch of the last round right here. And for rounds 4 through 7, you're going to be doing 1 single crochet into each stitch. We are just working the length of the chicken now, building the body. So 1 single crochet in each of these stitches. And what I like to do, let me get that in there. What I like to do is actually use my stitch marker to mark the outside stitch of the first round of round 3, whatever I'm trying to say. You get what I'm saying. This is the first stitch of round 4. That way I know how many rounds I've done and I don't get confused. So that is where I keep my stitch marker, and there it shall remain until the end of round 7, which is where I will meet you guys. So at the end of this round, you're just going to slip stitch and do 3 more rounds. Okay? And I will meet you back at the end of round 7. Okay, so now that you have reached the end of row 7 and you've slip stitched back into the top right here, so let's just confirm you got 4, 5, 6, 7. So there you go. You are going to, this is what we're going to do, okay? You're just going to chain 1, pull that, and you're going to leave yourself off enough for sewing. You can go ahead and pull this out if you want. Okay, so we are going to set this aside, and we're going to now be working on the egg. So go ahead and grab your 3.5 or 3.75 millimeter hook, whatever you chose, and let's get started. Okay, so to start making the egg, we are going to do a magic ring and 8 single crochet inside the magic ring once again. Make sure you have 8. Okay. All right, so for this, we are going to be working in a spiral, so I would keep this stitch marker near. And into the very next stitch, instead of doing a slip stitch, we are just going to be working straight into there. So we're going to be working 1 single crochet. This is an increase round, but we're going to start with 1 single crochet and then do an increase in the next one. And this is where I usually like to stop and put my stitch marker into that first single crochet right there, so we don't lose our place. Okay, so we are going to continue, and it is 1 and then an increase in the next. Continue this all the way around, doing 1 and then an increase into the next. Okay. Okay, so for the next 3 rounds, we're just going to be working 1 single crochet in each of the stitches. So I usually stop at about the 3rd one that I've done, and I will mark that first single crochet. And I'm going to mark the side of it again so that I mark the rounds. So 1, 2, 3. This is the side of that first crochet. Okay, so For rounds 3, 4, and 5, you're just going to do single crochets, and you're going to be making this little egg, the length of the egg. And I will meet you back at the end of row 5, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so this is row 3, 4, and 5, and I've stopped 1 stitch before there, so I am at the end of row 5. And at this point, you can take off the stitch marker, and I am going to be turning this inside out, and I'm going to be sewing in this end right here all along inside of these loops just to cinch it up nice and tight. So I'm going to do that off camera and go ahead and do the same. Okay, so now I have this all nice and tight. I've cinched it all. I'm going to just snip this off. Okay, we're going to flip this back inside out, or right side out. And now this next round is going to be a decrease round. So we are going to single crochet 1 and then do an invisible decrease. And I will show you how to do that. So single crochet 1, and then an invisible decrease is done into the front loops. So you have the front loop and the back loop. Before we worked in these back loops. So right now we're going to work into the front. So you go into the front of the first one, into the front of the next one. Just get it all the way in there. Okay. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through both of those. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through that. And that is a decrease. And I'm going to mark that first single crochet we did. So 1, 2, because we just did the decrease. And that is the first stitch of the round. Okay, and now we're going to do that again. So single crochet 1 and another invisible decrease. Okay, so go ahead and do that for the rest of the round. Okay, now it's at this point that I would stuff it. You don't want it getting too closed to where you can't stuff it. So it's really just going to take a tiny, tiny little bit. Because if you stuff it too much, it'll spread apart the stitches, and we don't want that. Okay. How cute is that? Oh my god, that's so adorable. Oh, I can't. Oh, that's so funny. Okay. Stuffing that in there. Okay. So for this next round, we're just going to do 1 single crochet in each of the stitches. 1, 2, and I'm going to go ahead and mark that so I remember where the beginning of the round is. Okay. Oops. Okay, so once you have reached the end of this round, I want you to slip stitch into the next stitch. You're going to chain 1. Now you're going to leave yourself quite a bit of string because we are going to use this to not only sew this closed, but we're also going to then crochet the chain. So make sure you leave yourself quite a bit. I would, let's see. Okay, I would cut it probably a little bit more than a yard. I probably cut off way too much, but I would rather have too much than not enough. Okay, now we're going to sew this closed. So I like to just work into the front loops, honestly, when I close things. I feel like it gives it a much cleaner look. I will work up and then down. So I will go up in this front loop, down that one. Up and then down. This should not take very long at all. Make sure you have enough stuffing. You are satisfied with how it is stuffed. Okay, I am happy. So what I'm going to do now is just tie a little knot. So I'm going to go around this stitch right here. I want to try to keep this as round as possible because we want it to stay looking like an egg. Right? Okay. So, but we also want this to be coming up from the center, not off the side. So I'm going to be going back in and trying to find the center of this. Let's see. So that when you dangle it, it's the center. So the center might be different for you than it is for me. See, the center right here looks like right here, but when I dangle it, it doesn't look like the center to me. So it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but I'm choosing right here. Now I'm going to attach my yarn to my hook again, doing a slip knot as close as I can to this. So how I do it is I chain twice, and holding this, I yarn over, and I am going to, holding that twist right there, I'm going to yarn over again. Easier said than done. Okay, so I made another twist, right? I gotta get as close as you can. And I'm going to yarn over again, created this little knot. Now I'm trying to get this as close as I can to the egg. I'm going to pull out some length. I'm going to cinch it up as close as I can to that egg. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. Now, chain until you reach about 8 inches if you have a button. If you don't have a button, I mean, going to about 9 inches, it's not going to harm anything. It gives you a little bit extra to work with, and you can always just stuff it up inside the egg. So just go ahead and chain, and I will meet you at about 8 inches. Okay, so if you are not working with a button, I'm going to show you how to do this and show you the concept of this before I show you how to do it with a button. But right here, I have about 8 inches. If you are not working with the button, I recommend going to maybe about 12 just because it'll make your knot a little bit thicker. So making sure that your chain was really tight. Okay, if you did it kind of loose, maybe go back and do it again. We just want this to be really tight. But basically, you were just going to pull this through, and that created a knot. So now we have this made. And you were going to then take your darning needle, and so now you have the egg on your darning needle, and you are going to take your chicken, and you're going to go up through the center of the chicken right here up to this hole we have not sewed yet. And you are going to pull this through. Okay, so now we have this through right here. So if you did a little bit extra or whatever, pull till you have about 8 inches. And then if you are working without a button, if you're working without a button, this is where I would be taking this chain right here. I would be turning this inside out. I would be taking, I mean, we're going to be doing this anyways, but you're going to be taking your this with your darning needle, and you're going to be stitching up in this circle right here as tight as you can to close this chain into it. And then you're going to take this long chain. Yours is going to be longer. I don't have a button, or I'm using a button. And you are going to be tying a big fat knot right here, a big fat one, so that once this is cinched up nice and tight and you have a big knot right here, it's not going to go through. Okay? And so go ahead and do that. And if you are working with a button, I will show you how to do that now. Okay, so if you have not skipped ahead to where we are closing it, this is where we're going to do the button. And I don't know if I'm making this more complicated. I probably am than it needs to be. But I am going to thread this button with the yarn right up against the chicken's butt. And now I cinched this in really, really tight. So if you did that too, you should have no problem. It should have no problem not coming out. As long as you put a big fat knot there, it's not going to come out. But basically, I'm going to just attach this button right here and then put a knot on the outside of it. And that is my way of securing the chain so that it does not go through. And this was honestly just a way for me to experiment with these new needles I got, because I wanted to try to make a dragonfly and I could not get the yarn through the needles or through the beads that I just bought. I just bought this huge box of beads at Goodwill. I'm very excited about it, and I didn't know what to do with them, and then I looked up dragonflies, so I'm looking forward to that. But let's see, one more and then I will tie a knot. Actually, I think I'm going to tie a knot now. Okay, so basically I'm just going to tie a bunch of knots right up at the base of this button, the same way you would if you were making the other knots and without a button. You're just going to tie a bunch of knots way at the base. And like I said, if you were doing this with a chain, it would be way thicker and you could have one really big knot at the end. But I'm just basically tying a bunch of knots right here. I'm going to call that good. Got a nice big knot right there on the other side of the button. It's just a bookmark. I feel secure though. Okay, so turning this back around. You should have something like this now. Now we are going to take our stuffing and we are going to stuff this little chicken. Not too much because, like I said, you don't want to overstuff it, but you do want it to be kind of fat. So enough to where when you close it like this, it has a little bit of a fatness to it. So I'm going to actually add this little bit. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. Now we're going to sew the chicken closed. Okay. And I'm going to be working into the back loops of either side with, I believe it's called a whip stitch. Going to be going, like I said, just the back loops. I feel like if you do it with the back loops, it gives the chicken's back just a little bit more of definition. Okay, nice, look at that. Oh my God, it's so cute. Okay, so now we're just going to tie a little knot. I just like to go around a, oops, sorry for going off camera. I'm just going to tie a little knot right here, around just one stitch right there. Going to tie that nice and tight. Okay, then I'm just going to hide this string. I'm going to poke it through. Cut that nice and close. Don't cut your chicken, but if you cut that nice and close, it'll go right in there and that'll be fine. Okay, so at this point in time, we're going to be sewing on the eyes, and I wanted to point out that this is our seam right here, so this is the back of the chicken. So we are going to be working into the front of the chicken, but I'm going to put my needle in down here at the bottom so that it's going to end up being hidden at the end. And so working back from the front of the chicken, we're going to work 1 stitch, 2 stitch, and down. And that is where I'm going to be putting the eye. I'm going to come right there, and I'm going to go forward. And before I go all the way through, we're going to be going straight over to the other side, right here. Look, I even did it. And I think I'm going to put this one behind it. And it's going to be coming out the same exact stitch that we went into. That way we can hide the yarn later. So make sure you're coming out the same exact stitch that you went into in the very beginning. And you can adjust this as you see fit. If you do not like where the eyes are, feel free to change them. There's no right or wrong way to do this. It's whatever you feel like doing. However close or far apart you would like them. But right now I'm going to tie a knot right here. And I'm going to double knot it. Going to snip this just a little bit so I have 2 even pieces of string to work with. And now I'm just going to sew this black string back into the chicken, coming out onto the other side. Say probably right about there will be fine. Just enough to get this in there. Snip that. You can take the back of your needle and just poke that in if you want. Should be fine. Okay, so now you're going to grab your yellow chunky yarn. Let's roll this crap away. And cut off a nice little length. Should be fine. Not too much longer than the eyeballs. Okay, we're going to be doing the same concept. So go in through the bottom and we're going to be working 1 stitch in front of the eyeball. Actually, I might just go right below it because I feel like I did the eyeball kind of forward. And like I said, if you don't like where my beak is, feel free to change it for yours. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You're going to be fine. See? And actually, I probably could have put this eyeball right there, but it's fine. It's going to be fine. I go through about 3 times. Okay, so there's my beak. It's not perfect, but it's a beak. Yours is probably better than mine. I'm going to snip that off. I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to tie it in the knot and then hide it back in there. Going back into the same hole. Coming back out the other side. Just enough to get that in there. Okay. Give that a little snip. That one should be easier to hide in there. Okay, and now we are going to be working on the red. So go ahead and grab your red yarn and your 4.5 millimeter hook. Okay, so once you have your hook, you are going to put it in about 2 stitches from the front, going through 1 loop on each side, right? And then you're going to attach your red yarn. So we're going to pull that through just like that, and we're going to secure it. And now that's how I secure it right there, just like with a slip stitch. And now I'm going to chain 2, and we're going to do a double crochet into that same stitch. Okay, and now we're going to do 1 double crochet into the next stitch. You can kind of see it, it's right there. There. Okay, and I'm going to be crocheting over this tail too so that it's easier to sew in at the end. Oops. Oh, this red yarn is not being cooperative right now, is it? Not the time. Okay. And now I'm just going to, oh wow, that sucks. Okay, I'll just grab it. Now I'm going to just do a slip stitch into that same stitch as we just did. Okay. And I'm going to chain 1 and cut my yarn. Okay, at this point, I'm going to take both of these and tie a knot together right here, pulling it nice and tight at the base of the chicken, right there at the base of the red. And you're going to do 2 of those, just to make sure it's extra secure. And I'm just going to go right back. I might just go into this right here, into that stitch right there. And I'm just going to go down all the way, and we'll just poke it out the side right there, it'll be fine. Pull that nice and tight. Give it a little snip. Hide that in there. And there you go. Look at our little chicken. And here you go, you guys. We are done. Now you have a chicken bookmark that everyone's going to love. Feel free to sell this if you want. If you do share the pattern, please come back to this video. I am actually really happy with this. I love this little chicken. Now I have 2 of them. They're just adorable. I'm very happy with them. They're just so cute. Tell me what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Please subscribe to my channel. I am loving being on YouTube. It took me a long time to get here, but I'm finally here. So thank you to everybody who has subscribed already. I am almost to 100 subscribers. I'm very excited about that. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Our little chicken looks kind of angry. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.